na kuendelea mbele.
Ungewahimiza Wakenya nini wanaposubiria?
Wakenya wawe na amani na utulivu. Wakenya msibabaike kuenda kukimbia barabarani. Wanasiasa ni marafiki kule wako, na sisi tubaki kuwa marafiki hapa chini, tuendeleze Kenya yetu mbele.
Sawa, asante. Karibu sana dadi. Tueleze tu waitwa nani na matarajio yako leo ni yapi?
Mimi naitwa Mr. Jabeso Kwany. Kulingana na matarajio yangu kutokana na hii kesi ambayo iko kwa koti, sisi kama wapiga kura tutaipokea vile itatokea. Mtu yeyote ambaye atatangazwa kwamba ameshinda, sisi ni Wanakenya tunataka tufanya na yeye.
Pengine una vipengele vidogo ambavyo ungependa Supreme Court kwenye judgment iweze kugusia?
Mimi ningependa ya koti kuu, Supreme Court, ya kwamba they should follow the haki, the rightness of the court. Wasijudge bila weighing other side, lakini the justice, we all need is only the justice to be done to the Kenyans.
Asante. Kwa rai pengine wakaaji wa Mombasa wanaposubiria?
You know, Mombasa is a peacemaking town. Always we believe in peace, and whatever shall come out, we shall simply exercise our peace as usual.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
Dadi, waitwa nani pengine na leo hii matarajio yako? Je, una vipengele ambavyo ungetaka ile judgment iweze kugusia?
Yes, kwa jina naitwa Mohamed Ahmed Hassan, na hudumu kama Secretary General wa National Kenya kitaifa kwa madaktari wa tiba za kiasili Kenya. Kwa ujumla matarajio ambayo nayatarajia leo ni matarajio ya ule ushindi ambao uko wazi. Kwa hivyo ningependa mahakama isiangalie kipengele chochote ambacho ni cha kuridhisha wananchi, isipokuwa iangalie uhaki na usawa. Pale uhaki huko na usawa, basi itekeleze.
Wakaaji ungewaraji?
Wakaaji ningewarai wawe watulivu na wakubali sheria na katiba ya nchi.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Asante mzee wangu. Nimalizia naangalia tu kamera iliyoko mbele yako. Kipengele, nipe story. Kipengele kipi?
Mimi kwa majina naitwa Malik Chelimo, mzaliwa Trans Nzoia, mkazi wa Mombasa tokea 2013. Na Mombasa kwa hakika ni mji wa amani. Na kile tunachotarajia kutoka kwa Supreme Court, tulee tu haki na tuendelee kuwa na amani.
Kuna kipengele ni kipi ambacho ungependa kiangaziwe zaidi?
Kile ningependa kiangaziwe sana sana, especially hii mambo after every 5 years tunarudi kwa mambo na kesi. Tungetaka hiyo kitu hiyo kidogo sugu itolewe kabisa. Kama ni uchaguzi utakafanyika, ifanyike bila mambo zingine.
Huenda kesi ikasema kwamba pengine rais na naibu wa rais hakushinda na pengine kuna uchaguzi mwingine. Wewe ungeweza kulipokeleaje jambo?
Tuko tayari kwa vyote vile, maana mahakama ya upeo na mahakama ya mwisho, na tutapokea kwa njia yote inayofaa.
Asante sana dadi. Asante sana. Waitwa nani?
Naitwa Jackson, mkazi wa Mombasa na kiongozi wa vijana.
Tupe matarajio ya kwanza, nipe story. Vipengele gani ama ni kipi ambacho unaona kinafaa kuangaziwa zaidi kwenye ile judgment itakayotolewa?
Commission ya IEBC. Mimi sina shaka mahakama ya juu itafanya kazi yake na itatoa uamuzi kulingana na sheria. Sisi kama wa Kenya tuko tayari kupokea uamuzi wowote ule ambao mahakama ya juu itatupatia sisi kama Wakenya.
Je, unaona kwa mtazamo wako IEBC ilifanya mukshili yote?
Kulingana na mimi, commission ya IEBC ilifanya kazi yake. Sasa hizi zingine mimi naona ni kama ni commission tu ilifanya kazi yake kama vile commission yote ile inafanya kazi.
Nruhusu wa mwisho, dadi, waitwa nani? Na kuona na mzigo kweli, pole kwa kuchoka, jua ni kali kweli. Naomba uangalie kamera tu iliyoko mbele yako. Waitwa nani na leo watarajia vipi mambo na Supreme Court?
Mimi naitwa Paul Akelo Barasa, na matarajio yangu katika Supreme Court na tarajia ile uamuzi wa court ndio mimi nitafuata, kwa sababu sisi hapa nje tulimaliza. Imebaki mambo ya court. Supreme Court ikitoa uamuzi, sisi kama wananchi tufuate. Tusije tukawatu wafujo, kwa sababu hali ya Kenya ni hali ngumu tayari.
Himizo lako la amani pengine kwa wakaaji wanaposubiri hiyo judgment saa 6 kamili?
Mimi naomba wananchi wenzangu wawe wapole, kwa sababu hali ya Kenya yetu imeharibika. Sisi tusije tukatoa uamuzi ubaya na ile hali koti imemaliza.
Asante sana. Hayo tu dadi, pengine unamalizia wito wako?
Mimi nakubaliana na huyu mwenzangu, nataka iwe uchaguzi hiyo uamuzi iwe ya
watu wana imani wa amani na wakubali uamuzi utakayotokea. Pande huu ama pande wale wataambiwa ni wao, mwingine akubali matokeo.
Asante Dadi kwa kutuongelesha. Hayo tu ni matamshi tu ya wakaaji wa hapa katika kaunti ya Mombasa. Their clarion call still remains peace for most of the residents of Mombasa. So we have been just walking over, just getting a feel of how the business community is looking like here in Mombasa County. Most businesses have opened, give it like 80% of the businesses in Mombasa have reopened and are waiting, of course, how the day unfolds when it comes to that verdict. And life is as normal as it can be. The normalcy here is being experienced as normal as it can be, and they're just waiting, and hopefully that most of the judgment that will be delivered will be in their favor. This is a cosmopolitan town. It has been perceived as an ODM stronghold. However, we have seen that the peace has been maintained since the August 9th general election results were relayed, and we are expecting that even after today's ruling, the same peace will be upheld. So back to you in studio, Regina, as I continue to have a chit chat with the residents of Mombasa.
Thank you very much, Junaid, there, just giving us a brief in regard to what is happening down in County 001. The Kenyans are even imploring on their brothers and sisters to continue maintaining peace, a peace that we have witnessed since August 15th there, when we had Wafula Chebukati, the IEBC chair, actually pronounce, or rather make the declaration that made that William Samoei Ruto is president-elect. Now we cross over to County 027 in Uasin Gishu, precisely Eldoret, where you can see on our screens there, that's our reporter Timothy Kipnusu, who is ready to bring us up to speed with what is happening in Eldoret. Good morning, Timothy. How are things down in Eldoret?
A very good morning to you, Regina Manyara, there at the Broadcasting House. Yes, indeed, I'm coming to you live from Uasin Gishu County. This is the home county of the Deputy President, the President-elect William Samoei Arap Ruto, and we have been traversing a number of places here in Eldoret, and generally the area is calm, but a number of residents are waiting with bated breath to understand what will be the verdict from the 7-judge bench. Remember that 349,863 residents of Uasin Gishu went to the ballot to elect their leaders, and William Samoei Arap Ruto garnered 272,868 votes, with his closest competitor Raila Amolo Odinga getting 76,009 votes among the 506,138 registered voters from Uasin Gishu County. And generally, they are just waiting to get to understand what will be the verdict. A number of them say that whatever the judgment that will be given by the IEBC, they will really welcome and continue with their lives, as this is a time when economy, they're crying about the economy, the cost of living, and they want leaders to get to their office and start working. And joining me is the Catholic Bishop Dominic Kimingich. I understand they had a meeting with the spiritual leaders, perhaps to give a message to Kenyans about just embracing peace. Many thanks indeed for joining us, Bishop. What is your assessment of the 7th-judge bench and how things are panning out?
We are all waiting with a lot of expectation that the 7th-judge bench will definitely deliver their judgment in accordance with the facts and the truth. And that is what we expect from them, that they will make a decision which is really based on the real facts and on the truth. And this is also what our people are expecting, because that's the only way in which people will be able also to accept whatever judgment they will make, and they will want to move forward with their lives. So we are waiting eagerly for that judgment, and as you have mentioned here in Uasin Gishu, the people really are waiting eagerly, because they want to hear that decision and be able to continue with their lives. Yes.
But perhaps what's your message to Kenyans? I asked the Uasin Gishu County, remembering that it was mentioned as the hotspot area. Generally, when the election was announced, William Ruto was announced as the president-elect, we saw those calm, even in other counties. Perhaps what's your message to people of Uasin Gishu, whichever the outcome from the 7-judge bench?
Well, what I would like to urge our people is to continue with the same peace. We voted peacefully. We waited for the tallying. We got the results in a very peaceful manner. So we want to maintain that peace, because there's no point, there's no reason why people should say this is a hotspot. Let it be a hotspot of peace, not a place where people will cause chaos or anything like that. As you already know, even the president-elect himself said he will accept whatever verdict will be said. So I think that is very important for our people to remain calm. After all, these elections will come and go, and we'll continue with our lives. So my message is that let us maintain our peace, let us maintain our calmness, let us continue with our lives as we wait for the verdict. Yes.
Perhaps your message to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, because anytime we go to the election, we always have a number of leaders poking holes on the electoral process. What is your message to the IEBC, and of course being an independent body that conducts election in Kenya?
Well, being an independent body, I believe IECB tried to do their best. Of course, just like any other institution, any other body, there's nobody who is perfect. And also using all these, even you rely on so many other people, they rely on technology. So definitely there could be some mistakes here and there. But as an independent body, we have to respect IECB. And if there are reasons, major reasons why maybe they didn't do their work, then that should be looked at. But as an independent body, we have to respect IECB and let them continue with the mandate which Kenyans have given them to conduct general elections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Perhaps your parting shot?
Well, let us remain peaceful. Let us wait calmly. It will be in the next 1 hour or two. We will know the verdict, whether the president-elect now will be declared the winner and he will continue now to be the 5th president of Kenya. Or if there's any contrary decision, we'll wait and see. Yes, but for us as Kenyans, let us remember that we are Kenyans. We have to maintain our unity. We are one family. We are one nation. Let us not allow all these things to divide us or to bring any animosity between our people. Let us live together and continue with our lives together. Yes.
Many thanks indeed for talking to us on KBC Channel 1. There you have it, Regina. That is Dominic Kimengich, the Catholic, Eldred Catholic Archbishop, just making his remarks concerning the wait-and-see situation from the 7-judge bench. And of course, the most important thing is that Kenyans should remain peaceful, whatever the outcome. If the 7-judge bench will annul or affirm the win of Deputy President or the President-elect William Samoei Arap Ruto. A number of residents say they are tired of waiting and they want to go back to business, and they are saying that whoever will be elected or whoever will be mentioned as the president or whatever, if they are going to the ballot again, they say they will really welcome that idea, just to ensure that we have the president. The most important thing also they say is whoever becomes the president doesn't matter at all, but the leaders who have been elected down there, ranging from the governor, senator, woman member to the National Assembly, and the member of County Assembly, those are the people they are focusing on to ensure that they have development in this particular country. From me, Timothy Kipnosu, I hand you back to studio, Regina Manyara.
Now, before I let you go, Timothy, and I know you're going to be keeping tabs awaiting that particular verdict to be delivered at noon. A quick question to the bishop there. What is his take in regard to, the role that the church, or rather the religious sect has played in regard to the August 9th polls? Maybe you can just ask the bishop that question.
We really wanted you... Are you related to the secular?
Well, we will be getting feedback in regard to what the bishop there has to say in as far as the conduct of the religious sect has had run up to the elections and even during the elections, and such at a time when we have heard from various denominations they are calling for Kenyans to remain peaceful as they have been. We will be getting to that. Now, some of the shots that you're seeing on screen are just live shots from Milimani there, where the Supreme Court anytime from now, actually exactly 32 minutes from now, is going to be delivering their verdict on the presidential judgment there. Now, to just give you a list, the petitioner, that is Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition, had a list of 42 lawyers who were litigating on this matter, and they were led, this team, the legal team, was led by senior counsel and Governor-elect there, James Orengo. He led this particular team that comprises of Feroz Nurwarji, then Philip Murgo, as well as Okongo Mogeni. Also in that particular team, and I can see we have just seen Tom Omolo there actually cross over. This is part of the Azimio legal team there, 42 lawyers there contracted for this particular matter. Under the case management team, we had lawyer Paul Mwangi, we had Jackson Awele, Julie Soweto, Velma Mauri, Professor Shihanya, Fred Orego, Dan Manzo, as well as Tom Masharia there. Just some a slide past there. We saw that is Dan Manzo there, who just crossed there in that particular screen. That is just some of the Azimio team of lawyers there. And as far as the Kenya Kwanza team is concerned, they contracted 54 lawyers in this particular petition, and they were led by senior counsel Fred Ngatia, leading a team of 4 first. That is Kioko Kilukumi, we had Kirago Githenji, and Professor Kithure Kindiki. Also, a part of the team, and as far as the case management aspect is concerned, included prominent counsels like Katwa Kigen. This particular team by Kenya Kwanza also featured ICT professionals there, just to look at, the 50. We had Raymond Bet, Edmond Kiprotich, Geoffrey Rono there, Geoffrey Koech, Duncan Kichamu, who is a statistician. And as we have seen in the dailies even that we have captured, that have been captured, and the headlines there is that it's been an issue around ICT-based, the process vis-a-vis the tally, and ICT has been adversely mentioned. What you're seeing is, I think, the team from the Kenya Kwanza team there, as well as Gideon Wegai there, former AG there, walking in with a team of counsels there. And that particular had made some light moments, and we began this particular petition there. And those are some of the color that we saw as we continued the coverage of the Supreme battle there, so to speak. Either way, in the next 29 minutes, we are seeing Wajakoya there with his durag also joining in. You can see this, we are 29 minutes to go, and we are likely to know which way the axle is going to land in as far as the presidential petition 2022 is concerned. I would want to quote some legal counsels there, what they have had to say in regard to, how confident they are of a Supreme victory. And I want to quote Mahat Somane. And he has been, very key in representing the IEBC there, and says there were no foreigners and no form displayed on the IEBC portal that was not the original, which includes security features. There's been conversation. What has been put on the IEBC portal? Is it a factual? Is it not? Is it a fake? And as by the end of Friday, we had several, hashtags trending on Twitter there, at least so to speak, about Jose Camago there, who apparently was a name that was adversely mentioned during that particular petition. I'd also want to quote George Morogo, who said that IEBC chairman has made considerations of his staff who are facing arrests and intimidation and decided not to wait another day. This was a question in which IEBC chair Wafula Chebukati found himself at the crux, so to speak, in regard to the challenge in the manner in which he made the declaration after the August 9th polls. Now, Zerhabu Johan Mohammed said the Constitution talks about the commission, not the commissioners or the chairperson. He cannot be equal than others. That's a question in regard to matters of the IEBC and way forward. And we have our guests here who have been chipping in and giving their views in regard which way forward as far as IEBC is concerned. And I'm talking about constitutional lawyer Shadrack Wamboi as well as Gibson Gesore there. The question of IEBC, is this where we draw the line? Are we going to change in as far as the electoral law is concerned? After we saw what happened, we have 4 dissenting commissioners. We have a chairperson who, though criminal charges have not been leveled against them, there's been talk around, especially with the petitioners, saying that he should be found culpable of malpractice and that. But by end of today, that is exactly 26 minutes from now, we will know the direction in which we'll take in as far as the August 9th petition is concerned. From the screen, security is quite beefed up at Milimani, as you can see there. And also, there was a communication made earlier in regard to the roads that are going to be blocked just to ensure that this particular process runs simultaneously and seamlessly there. And it was made public, and including KBC Channel 1 actually carried that story to just enable you as a Kenyan citizen go by your duties, being asked to remain peaceful and calm as we let the 7-judge bench, they're led by none other than Chief Justice Martha Koome, tell us which direction the presidential petition is going to take. And just to bring back this conversation back to studio, and I'd want to engage our 2 guests here just as we wait to see if there's any activity that we are likely to see from the screens that you're seeing. First of one, we showed you that this was a security, the Supreme Court where is going to be, has been sitting for the last 14 days or so, pre-trial, deciding what key issues are going to be decided. They settled on the 8th, and now there are only 2 options. It's either a nullification or a validation, upholding the elections as well. And each have ramifications in as far as leadership and governance of this country is concerned. What you're seeing is that it's down to 24 minutes before we have the Supreme Court session on, where we're waiting to have that verdict given there. From the screens, you can see councils continue getting into the chambers there. This was quite a petition, so to speak, each side not taking any chances there with first petition and second petitioner there, hiring at least 42 lawyers led by senior counsel James Orengo there, while on the other side, one of the respondents, that is Kenya Kwanza there, engaged 54 lawyers led by senior counsel Fred Ngatia there. And we have been treated to quite legal matters, so to speak, having to learn a little bit of legalese during this time. Now, I want to bring back the conversation, but we'll continue keeping tabs on what is happening there at the Supreme Court, and also looking at the security within the CBD. What our reporters on ground have shown right now is that it's business as usual, though a majority of Kenyans are not within the central business district. A majority of them, I am guessing, they're either home just waiting to see what is going to happen after noon or at noon. Now, Gibson Gesore as well as Shadrack Wamboi, I'd want to pick your brains in regard to what is in your opinion, let's start off with you, Gibson Gesore. What is your opinion of how the media has carried itself during the coverage of the August polls up to now as we speak? Do you think we have done a fine job in comparison, especially to 2007, 2008, and 2017? Gesore, let's start off with you.
Thank you so much, Regina. That's a very interesting question. The media has really done a good job. Done a good job in a sense that they have been part of the partnership in this electoral process, trying to bring the nitty-gritties or the information as it comes from the IEBC or wherever it's happening. And that is something we need to actually shine light upon and say that people have spent tireless, quite a big amount of time trying to cover the election. I remember you were at Bomas, you never slept, you were telling me how tedious it was. It means that's a sacrifice you gave so that we could get the news of what was happening from the tallying center. And there were several journalists across the country, both local and international, who really burned their midnight oil to actually bring to Kenyans what is happening and where it's happening from. And looking at that sense of patriotism, that sense of being alive to duty is something which we need to commend you for. And we ask that you don't look back on that, because we really count on you so that we can be able to know or hold the government accountable, IBC accountable, and actually for news. Those are very important aspects, because once you have that, they say information is power, and you actually relay that in the best way possible.
Thank you for that vote of confidence. Before I hand over to, Shadrack Wambui to give us, his thoughts in regards to media coverage of the election to now. What you're seeing on screen is that this is the inside of the Supreme Court, the makeshift court area from Milimani, where we are expecting any minute from now. It is down to 21 minutes to noon there. We're expecting that the 7-judge bench led by Martha Koome there, this Chief Justice Martha Koome, is going to be sitting and will be delivering its verdict in regard to the August presidential petition there. What you're seeing on your screen, we're seeing some counsels there from the Kenya Kwanza team. We're seeing Professor Kithure Kindiki there, as well as IEBC lawyer Mahamat Somane there, who's been very vocal in defending the IEBC, saying that there were all the forms that were displayed by the IEBC portal were all original there. Also further on, I think I can see a lawyer there, Paul Mwangi, I'm not too sure, but we are going to be keeping tabs on that. And as you can see, we are seeing more councils just access the hall in which we are waiting to see, or rather where the verdict is going to be delivered from. Remember, this is a Supreme Court, the apex court of the land, and the decision that is going to be rendered in there is going to be final. And also some light moments there. You see Professor Wajakoya there. George Wajakoya is among counsels who are at the Supreme Court there, and he was among the candidates eyeing the top seat in this August polls there under the Roots party. But with the numbers there, he failed to clinch that. But we will get to know if at all the Supreme Court decides that this, to uphold this election, would say that he failed to clinch the requisite votes that were required to declare him the president, so to speak. We are waiting to see, given the constitutional timelines. Actually, with the 7-judge bench sitting at noon to deliver that particular judgment. If you go back to the time, go back in time, as per the Constitution, we are looking at around 7 days, so to speak, 14 days there. So they're exactly 2 hours before the 2 p.m. deadline. Now, Shadrack Wambui, who is a constitutional lawyer, what is your take in regard to the coverage that the media has given the August polls, pre and up to date as we are?
Well, to be fair to the media, I think on an average of 10, I will give the media 7, so that it also gives the media some room for improvement. but as far as timely reporting is concerned, I think the media has done a splendid job. It has done a splendid job as regards a balanced, reporting of issues when it comes to, matters as they are happening. But I think one thing that probably is something that we should look forward to. It's investigative journalism, so that there has been some concerns. There has been some issues about, we begin with the stalemate that we experienced between the commissioners. Perhaps we will have relied even more from the media to establish really what was the problem. Is what Chebukati has been saying really the truth, or is there something more than what is meeting the eye? So probably I think going over and above what has been quite apparent. I think the media has in the previous past told us or taught us so many things from the use of their cameras. But I think moving forward, there is always some room for improvement in everything that we do. Even with the splendid job that you people have done, the future is still ripe for exploiting other avenues or other opportunities. We need to establish so many things other than what we've been seeing just on TV. We've been seeing some plays, people playing. We need to also get a cover of what is this that has been happening behind the scenes, so that we are treated to more. And I think this is something that we live with you. All is not lost. There is still an opportunity where you can tell us probably, or give us a panoramic view of what has been transpiring behind the scenes that we have not seen so far.
Now, that is those are your views in regard to, how the local media has covered the August polls up to this point. Maybe as I want to rope in my colleague Ben Troy in regard to, what we're expecting in the next 16 minutes or so. How does it compare when it comes to coverage of elections between the local media vis-a-vis the international media? Because there's a conversation that is currently ongoing online that there's a lot of anticipation, and it's all not good. It's actually negative, portrayal of Kenya and this particular situation we find ourselves by a section of international media outlets.
Indeed. And Ray, let me pick it from where you started out when you talked about how the media has carried itself through all the electoral process and through the petition itself. Yeah. And you bear me witness that a lot of Kenyans talked about media letting Kenyans down the day that we started tallying the results. We did a very good presidential and gubernatorial debates, but we were not as united or as one cohesive unit when it came to the tallying process, and which would have helped a lot of Kenyans cool their nerves. But away from that, the election itself and the petition, I would say we as media have carried ourselves in the best way so far. In the great words of Wakili here, is that we still have some room to improve as based to how we cover and how we write our report. Because looking at what we see the same thing, but at the end of the day, when we go down to write our story, sometimes you find some discrepancies here and there. That said, the media also will be keen, and Kenyans will be keen to see how after this we do carry ourselves, because at the end of the day, you have had America talk about it, many countries, but they have to rely on the media, because if we don't show it, if we don't write it, if we don't present it out there, no one will know exactly what is happening in the country. And still on the same, and I think this is something that we can have a discussion on, an interesting read written by a journalist talking about the presidential petition. Raila Odinga has been a perennial petitioner when it comes to this, and that person is arguing no matter how this goes, either his way or not, he will be credited in fighting the fight and actually trying to solidify our democracy. I don't know how Wakili Gisore you view this, but at the end of the day, despite his hits and misses, because he's had some wins and some losses as well, is that he has enabled Kenya to be a democratic country, and also single out some of the things, because in 2017, what the Apex Court talked about are some of the things that we have been able to implement in our 2022 politics. And at the end of the day, win or lose, it still be credited in solidifying our democracy. Sorry.
I think, Ben Troy, I want to thank you for raising that issue about Raila Odinga. Raila Amolo Odinga is one person who has serious temerity for democracy, if I might say that, because look at the man, look at his journey. This man has been in prison, came out, fought for the 1992 liberation. That succeeded. We appealed Section 2A, and then turns back and joins Moi's government, and then turns to throw Moi's government out, or his choice, so giving rise to another liberation, whereby we had change of power. Then fast forward, we come to the 2005 referendum, where he had to actually leave government and champion our cause towards liberating Kenyans through a new constitution, which had dragged on for too long. So we saw his hand in all this process. We saw it in 2007, when the election went sideways. He was able and willing to share the government, as opposed to contrary views, which were telling him you shouldn't share anything, you won. If he was somebody bad, he could not have reneged on that. He actually stands out as a statesman and says, Kenya first. I choose Kenya. I fought for this because I love Kenya, because I want to see a better Kenya. So if sharing the government with Mwai Kibaki is something which is going to give us prosperity, is what I will do. And that happened. We ended up having the 2010 constitution, which is very robust, which we are enjoying. He has actually even gone in to bolster that particular constitution by going to court severally to test the limits, to actually be able to portray that this constitution has got to be tested to every end, so that we can be able to have a better country. In 2013, he was in court. He lost. And I said, okay, we will obey, we will obey. Come 2017, he actually succeeded. He succeeded in the petition, and he ended up joining government, or having a handshake for purposes of Kenya. For purposes of Kenya, he did an handshake for continuity, because the economy has not been doing well for the longest time. So for purposes of Kenya, he actually was able to do an handshake. And then he's again in 2022 in court. If we can quote him today, he said, it's not about me, it's about fostering democracy, which is if there is anything we can credit the man, is that he's a democratic Kenyan, and he's actually a person who is out for the good of Kenya. And that in itself embodies a man who has done much more than any other president, because nobody has been able, amongst the presidents who have led Kenya, you've not seen anybody stand strongly for Kenya. Some of them have been elected, but I'm sorry to say, nobody has been able to be for Kenyans. Raila represents the common man and the interests of the people. They have done their bit in terms of developing the economy, or trying to do their single political issues around leadership, but in a uniform scale, I think if you get to put them on a weighing scale, I think he really weighs way much more than any other president in terms of fostering democracy.
Now, Gisore, thank you for that in regard to, how we have covered. And we have seen quite sensational headlines, as you've said there, but we need to remain factual. As your colleague there has given us a 7 out of 10, giving us room for improvement. Indeed, we will work on that. But now let's find out what is happening within the central business districts. Statistics indicate that 85% of workstations are domiciled within the CBD. Now, being September the 5th, we are joined by Hibak Sayed from Kencom there. We can say it's the center of CBD, to just bring us up to speed with what is happening as Kenyans await that particular ruling. Hibak, hi. How are things from Kencom?
Thank you, Regina Manyara. We are at the Central Business District, and we're just trying to gauge what exactly is happening, especially here at the capital of Kenya, Nairobi City. We have a few people, a few businessmen, boda riders, who are just trying to get their daily means as we wait for the Supreme Court ruling. A few minutes to 12. If we could just have your opinion, sir, on what exactly you've seen. The Supreme Court is about to give a very important judgment today. Unaona vipi biashara yako imekuwa vipi, na umeonaje town iko leo?
Let me start by saying that my name is Dudiman. I'm the CEO of the Man Show, and I'm so much glad and happy to have this opportunity with you guys. God bless you so much for doing an amazing job. Now, let me start by saying that we are okay in town. We are operating, we are doing something so amazing. And to make the matters worse, our border riders here in Besni CBD are doing quite excellent job. I have a good friend of mine who is the national coordinator for border riders here in Nairobi, and we are happy for it. We are happy. So we are waiting to see. We doesn't know what is going to happen. We doesn't know what Kome is going to say, but we are happy because my brother is your brother. Your sister is my brother. We doesn't want to know the ethnicity. We doesn't want to know where you come from, your sister, your brother. But we live like brothers and sisters. Despite having anything or doesn't have anything, we share the little that we have. So as a border rider who is a journalist by profession, because I've worked with your media or whatever, I'm happy. We are happy. So let me just give a take to my brother and say something.
Just to cut you off, Regina, we've been checking around and we've seen that the shops are mostly open. The businesses are functioning quite well. People are conducting their business as they always have. As you can see, we're at Kencom, and most of the matatus are carrying people just as they always do. People are waiting, yes, for the ruling by the Supreme Court, but people are going about their business here in Nairobi City. If maybe we could have the opinion of a Kenyan, unaonaje kuhusu hii Supreme Court ruling? Unaonaje, nini unatarajia?
Okay, kwa majina ni Victor Chiteri from Kibra. Ningependa tu kusema ni those results of the CJ has announced the results. Let us take as normal so that we can continue with our normal work, so that people can continue with their normal business. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to have to give it back to you, Regina. We're still going to be traversing Nairobi City, and maybe we'll go to another street within the Central Business District and to just see what exactly happens as the day progresses and as the judgment comes. Back to you in studio, Regina.
Thank you, Hibaka, for that quick update. I can see, yes, Kenyans quite still being Kenyans, trying to make light of the situation, even as it remains, on tenterhooks. We remain on tenterhooks in regard to what we should expect come the next 6 minutes there. And we are live. We have our reporters there on ground, including Serafina Ruby, who is going to be bringing us up to speed with what is happening. Kenyans asked to remain peaceful as we wait the 7-judge bench there to make a ruling in regard to the August presidential petition. What you're seeing on your screen, those are live pictures from Milimani there. We have seen various councils have arrived. We have Kithure Kindiki there, who is part of the Kenya Kwanza legal team. There is Katwa Kigen just crossing your screen there. Further ahead there, we are also having other councils who are either have been representing the respondents or the petitioners there, all looking calm. At the end of the day, we have there has to be peace and justice going forward. We are all brothers and sisters there. Now, I'd want to hand it over, rather take it to you back to you, Troy, there. We were talking about the performance and the conduct of the media during the election, and even at the point where we are right now, focusing on the presidential petition. And from Hibak Said's link there, you can see there's a Kenyan there who has introduced himself as Ndu the Man. And what I am actually proud of is that during this particular election, we did not have an issue of, sensation, so to speak, with the Githeri man aspect and such. We did not see this. We kept it to matters of fact. And I would want to say, let's toot our own horn as a media fraternity there. But it was a light moment to try and see that there was a gentleman behind Said Hibak there, calling guys to tell them, hey, you need to watch us. You need to watch us from KBC Channel 1. I'm live. Well, we also want to welcome your feedback. You can get us on Twitter on KBC Channel 1. But before we get to read what you have to say on Twitter and the expectations, we want to take you down to Kibra, where we're joined by my colleague Irene Mchuma Odim to bring us up to speed with how things are looking like in Kibera. Good afternoon.
Representing the country.
get the sound corrected, we'll be getting back to you. We are domiciled in various parts of the country just to keep tabs on what is happening as we await the much anticipated verdict on the presidential petition of August 2022 there. Security has been beefed up. A communication was made to Kenyans, especially who are operating within the Central Business District. Various roads were closed, including Ngong Road there at the junction of NHIF there, as well as, some motorists redirected not to use the Haile Selassie Avenue there to just try and keep crowds out of Milimani there, where the 7-judge bench is going to be giving its ruling, led by Chief Justice Martha Koome. What you're seeing is security outside Milimani Law Courts there. That is a contingent of National Police as well as a General Service Unit. And inside there, we're seeing a council made up of, various, there you go, we have Soweto there. Council Soweto there. You can see how she's already there. I would want to know what's going on through the minds of the lawyers there, both for the petitioner and the various respondents there, who over the last 2 days have exuded confidence that they're going to be carrying their day, or rather their prayers are going to be carrying the day. In the next 1 minute, we are expecting the 7-judge bench there. We are seeing Feroz there, Luigi, as engaging Professor Githu Muigai and the legal counsel there, Governor-elect, that is James Orengo. Quite camaraderie there, transpiring between the senior counsels there. So, as we say, it's all in a day. It's all in a day when it comes to matters of litigation, and that there are no permanent enemies. But we asked that Kenyans remain peaceful, and justice, we hope, is going to be served in this particular matter. Yes, that.
We cannot be emphasized enough. Look at the pictures on your screen. James Orengo there, and other lawyers who are representing different factions. And they're all seated together, they make fun together, they argue it out, they sweat it out together, and maintain the peace. That is exactly what should be happening, not only in that court, but in the Republic as well. Before we crossed over to Irene, we were talking about how despite the fact that he has had some hits and misses in presidential petition, is that he has been able to bolster our democracy in regards to electoral matters. And I would like to pick Shadrach's mind on the same, is despite that Raila has won and lost some of the petitions, he has actually helped the electoral system in the country. That was an interesting read. I was reading from a journalist as well. And on the 7 out of 10, yes, I do agree, because there are some journalists still talking about a ruling. We don't expect a ruling, we expect a judgment today, because it's the final product of what they have been hearing for the last couple of days. Wamboy, I would like to pick your mind on the same.
Well, there is a lot to admire from the two gentlemen who have been, entertaining us with this presidential dispute. And one thing you will give to Dr. William Samoei Ruto first is his spirit of resilience. That spirit of, when he wants it, he goes for it. That is something admirable from his humble background. That is something that you will have to admire and acknowledge. On the other hand, you must acknowledge the kind of contribution that the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga has given us as a country. So many things. The laws that we currently enjoy have we actually enjoy them largely because of the contribution he has made, the kinds of pain he has had to go through. You speak of the multi-party, us becoming a multi-party democracy in the year 1990s. That is his contribution. His fight against the Moi utilitarianism, that is his contribution. Most of us have studied to an extent, and we appreciate the jurisprudence that has been created by Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. When you go to school, some of the things that lecturers teach, is the jurisprudence that has emanated from the 2013 jurisprudence, which if Raila Amolo Odinga had not desired to go through that route, if he had not paid the security of cost of 1 million and paid the filing fees of 500,000 shillings, probably we will not have learned or gotten an opportunity to understand the law deeply the way we have understood it. Then, champions are actually made from people who try. Sometimes they fail because if you do not try, there is no likelihood that you will ever succeed, you will fail. But his failure in the year 2013 did not in any event discourage him from trying our democracy through the court processes. So that in the year 2017, we saw him participate in the elections, we saw him challenge the elections, the election results, so that the win that he got in the year 2017, and of course his refusal to participate in the process because of the referee. So whatever the outcome that we will get, if it is a repeat of the elections, then it will be a gift to Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, because we do not expect that he will be running in the year 2027. I mean, if age is anything to go by. In any event, even with probably a repeat of the process, it does not necessarily mean that it is a loss to Dr. William Samoei Ruto. No, it does not mean it. It only means that probably this is just but his dream that has been deferred, so that he will have another opportunity, probably in the next or within the 60 days that are set in law, and even probably even in the future. I mean, Right Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto is a young man who has a lot of life in himself. I think today he should be turning 55 years of age. Really, he has a lot.
Now,
Yes.
one point,
right?
Let's get to hear what is happening down in Kibra, where we're joined by Irene Mchuma Odim there to just bring us up to speed with what is going down there. Good afternoon, Mchuma. How are things at Kibera, or rather in Kibera?
Regina, good afternoon. We are coming to you live at Kianda area in Kibra constituency. Earlier on, we were at Ayani and Makina areas, and Regina would say it's business as usual to a huge number of residents here in Kibra constituency. However, there are those who are following the proceedings from their screens. This as we wait for the verdict of the Supreme Court. Remember, Raila Odinga, who is the Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate, is also the ODM party leader, and Kibra constituency has time and again given him a back wherever he's making a move politically. And interestingly, Regina, unlike what many people would anticipate, that many people will remain at home and not go back to the business, is business as usual for many residents here in Kibra constituency. In fact, the shopkeepers, the tailors, the welders are going on with their business as usual. The matatu operators, boda boda riders.
Thank you very much. The 7 judges making their way that are about to take their seats. Remember, this particular 7 judges are made up of William Oko, as you can see on your screen, flanked by Njoki Ndongo having a seat, Isaac Lenaola, Smokin Wanjala, Philomena Mwili, who's a Deputy Chief Justice, and Martha. Let's have a listen in.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Supreme Court of Kenya for the delivery of judgment in presidential election petition number E005 of 2022 as consolidated with E001, E002, E003, E004, E007 and E008 of 2022, Raila Amolo Odinga and 6 others versus William Ruto and 13 others. The Honorable Chief Justice and the President of the Supreme Court is presiding.
Thank you. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, this is the judgment of the court, which is delivered pursuant through to Rule 23(1) of the Supreme Court Presidential Election Petition Rules 2017 in the presidential election held on the 9th August 2022. This is an abridged version of the judgment. The full judgment will be delivered. Sovereign multi-party democratic state whose foundations are firmly spelled in the Constitution. The Kenyan people's quest for electoral reforms since independence is well documented. This speaks to a background of distrust of the administration of our electoral process. Informed by this setting, Kenyans made a decision to vest the Supreme Court with the jurisdiction to determine questions regarding the validity of a presidential election under Article 140 of the Constitution. The reactions following the declaration of results of the presidential election of 9th August 2022 shows that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has not yet garnered universal public confidence and trust in the internal management of the Commission and elections. On the 15th August 2022, 6 days after the general elections were held, Raila Odinga, 6.942,930 votes, representing 48.85%. William Ruto, 7.176,141 votes, representing 50.49%. David Wahiga, 31,987, representing 0.23%. George Wajakoya, 61,969, representing 0.44%. Based on the aforesaid results, the chairperson of IEBC declared William Samoei Ruto the first respondent, the presidential candidate for the United Democratic Alliance Party, as the president-elect. This declaration has precipitated a total of 9 presidential petitions that are filed before us, to wit, number 1, presidential election number 001 of 2022, John Njoroge Kamau versus Wafula Chebukati and 3 others, and Raila Amolo Odinga and 7 others named as interested parties. The second petition is presidential election number 002 of 2022, Youth Advocacy Africa and another versus IEBC and 12 others. Third petition, presidential election petition number 003 of 2022, Kerif Khalifa and 3 others versus IEBC and 3 others. Fourth petition, presidential election petition number 4 of 2022, David Kariuki Ngari versus IEBC and 9 others. 5, presidential election petition number 5 of 2022, Raila Amolo Odinga and another versus IEBC. 6, presidential election petition number 6 of 2022 by Moses Kuria and others versus Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and 4 others named as interested parties. Number 7, presidential election number 007 of 2022, Okia Omtata Okoiti and others versus IEBC and others. Number 8, petition number 008 of 2022, Julia Nyokabi Chege and others versus IEBC and 3 others. And the last one but not least, petition number 009 of 2022, Ruben Kigame Richete versus IEBC and others. In addition to these petitions, we received a total of 24 interlocutory applications and 1 preliminary objection, which were filed in this court. 2 of the presidential election petitions were struck out. That is petition number 006 and 009 of 2022 for failure to meet the constitutional threshold as set out under Article 140 of the Constitution. On 29 August 2022, this court also admitted 3 amici curiae briefs by the Law Society of Kenya, the Kenya section of International Commission of Jurists, and John Warubengo and 2 others. Upon perusing and considering the issues raised in the remaining presidential election petition numbers 001, 002, 003, 004, 005, 007, and 8, the responses and the submissions filed thereto, this court found that all the 7 petitions substantially raised similar issues and sought similar reliefs. Consequently, on 30th August 2022, this court ordered that the 7 petitions be consolidated and designated presidential election petition number 005 of 2022 as the read file. From the consolidated petition, the responses filed and submissions filed by all the parties, the court crystallized the following issues for determination. And those issues are there. We have repeated them several times. I will not read them. Having considered and deliberated upon the consolidated petition, the attendant responses, submissions, and also considering the amici curiae briefs, we now make the following determination on issue number 1, which is whether the technology deployed by IEBC for the conduct of the 2022 general elections met the standards of integrity, verifiability, security, and transparency to guarantee accurate and verifiable results. As noted in the introduction, lack of trust in the electoral system has endured in Kenya for a long time. This led to the introduction of electoral technology following recommendations made by the Independent Review Commission on the general elections held on the 27th December 2007, popularly known as the Kriegler Commission report. That report recommended integration of technology into Kenya's electoral process for registration, identification of voters, and transmission of results. These were enacted in Section 44 of the Elections Act 2011. By this statute, IEBC is enjoined to adopt technology in the electoral process. As a consequence, the IEBC developed a technology known as Kenya Integrated Electoral Management System, KIMS, making Kenya's election process an hybrid as it employed both technology and manual processes. The first, third, and fourth petitioners in the consolidated petition challenge the technology used by IEBC during the 2022 general election. They plead that the manner in which technology was deployed and utilized fell short of the prescribed constitutional and statutory standards. As regards the audit of the Register of Voters, they urge that IEBC, pursuant to its elections operations plan, committed itself to conducting an audit of the Register of Voters by 31st March 2022. To the contrary, they arrange it only publicly availed the audit report on its website on 2nd August 2022, which was only 7 days to the elections. In this report, it was noted that the auditors established serious gaps and risk to the electoral process, including numerous cases of change of voter stations without knowledge or approval of the affected voters. Grant of voter update privileges in IEBC, IDMs, to 14 user accounts and related to voter registration. Reducing the accountability of user activities in the register of voters. Presence of 11 active generic accounts on the MBIS application and the 2 MBIS users with the same logging identification. Risking unauthorized system users, possible interference, change of particulars on the activation of voters in the system. IEBC's failure to set up access, decertification, and user activity review process. And IEBC was also arranged to have failed to respond to requests by auditors for crucial information. On the integrity of the technology deployed, it was the case for the 7th petitioner that in order to comply with Article 86 of the Constitution and Section 44 of the Elections Act, the technology deployed must be simple, accurate, verifiable, secure, accountable, and transparent. On the simplicity of technology, the 7th petitioner contends that the KIMS kit failed the tests as they were not easily usable by ordinary citizens without expert knowledge. They further assert that IEBC was expected to procure and put in place a technology necessary for the conduct of the general election at least 120 days before the election and ensure consultation with the relevant agencies, institutions, and stakeholders. Furthermore, the petitioners arranged that IEBC violated its constitutional duty by delegating the design, implementation, and conduct of the KIMS components of the election to a foreign company, Smartmatic International Holdings, BV. As a result, IEBC staff and the public did not have full comprehension of the KIMS component. They conclude, therefore, that IEBC abdicated and surrendered its role to conduct elections to Smartmatic, and that IEBC vigorously fought as required by Regulation 61, 69, and 75 of the Elections General Regulations 2012. In response, IEBC has submitted that the electoral system met the constitutional threshold, that all the necessary information was accessed only by the authorized persons. The information was accurate, complete, and protected from malicious modification, either by authorized or unauthorized persons. IEBC maintained an audit trail on activities related to information, and that the information was available and could be authenticated through the use of various security features. In further response, IEBC contended that they engaged KPMG on 7th April 2022 to conduct an audit of the register of voters, which was submitted on 18th June 2022. In addition, it issued a briefing on the report on 20th June 2022, summarizing the thematic areas therein and disclosing its findings as well as actions taken to remedy the issues identified. It also conducted its annual audit in compliance with Regulations 11 and 12 of the Election Technology Regulations 2017 and a certification of compliance issued to it on 3rd August 2022. IEBC relied on sworn affidavits by Michael Ouma, Moses Sunkuli, and Hussein Majan on 26th August 2022, which were to the effect that it published the interim report by KPMG on 8th June 2022 and embarked on remedial measures aimed at effecting the recommendations ahead of publication of the final report. It was ascertained that it could not publish the full final audit report, as doing so would compromise the integrity and security of the electoral technology system, considering the provisions of the Data Protection Act, which imposes a duty to protect the data of Kenyan voters. On the other hand, the first and second respondents urged that even if there was failure of technology, it did not vitiate the result of the presidential election. Upon considering all the printing submissions and the ICT scrutiny and inspection tallying and recount report, which fully examined the IEBC's result transmission system, RTS, we are not persuaded by the allegation that the technology deployed by IEBC failed the standard of Article 86A of the Constitution on integrity, verifiability, security, and transparency for the following reasons. 1. Whereas it is true that the KIMS kit failed in 235 polling stations, 86,889 voters were granted the right to vote manually, and the requisite forms 32A were duly filed. This happened successfully in Kibwezi West constituency and parts of Kakamega County. 2. While the audit report was released to the public 7 days before the 9th August election, the register of voters was used at the election without any apparent anomalies. 3. Smartmatic was procured to provide the necessary technological infrastructure, as IEBC did not have the capacity to do so. No credible evidence meeting the requisite standard of proof of access to the system by unauthorized persons was adduced by the petitioners. The scrutiny report prepared by the registrar of this court did not reveal any security breaches of the IEBC's RTS. IEBC successfully deployed a biometric voter register system which captures unique features of a voter's facial image, fingerprints, and civil data to register and update voter details across the country and also in the diaspora. The BVR captures a voter's facial image, fingerprints, and civil data, which features are unique to each of the voter. In In compliance with Section 6A of the Elections Act 2011, IEBC opened the register of voters for verification of biometric data by members of the public for a period of 30 days. Thereafter, the register was revised to address issues arising from the verification exercise. KPMG then audited the register, and we are satisfied that the inconsistencies and inaccuracies identified during the audit were somewhat successfully addressed. The second issue was whether there was interference with the hap-rounding and transmission of Forms 34A from the polling station to the IEBC public portal. The first petitioner arranged staging that a person who had access to the RTS intercepted, detained, or stored Forms 34A temporarily to convert or manipulate it before uploading it on IEBC's public portal. It is arranged also on 11th August 2022, IEBC dumped over 11,000 Forms 34A on the public portal between 11 to 11:09 hours. To rebut this allegation, IEBC and its chairperson, in their response dated 26th August 2022, denied staging and unauthorized intrusion of the RTS. In that regard, they urged that every image of Form 34A was uploaded immediately after the transmittal of results. The form was received as evidence by the timestamp. Similarly, the first respondent denied these allegations. Our finding: 1, no credible evidence was presented to prove that anyone accessed the RTS to intercept, detain, or store Forms 34A temporarily before they were uploaded to the public portal. The allegation that 11,000 Forms 34A were affected by staging was similarly not proved. 2, the allegation that IEBC, its officials and strangers used a tool to tamper with the Forms 34A before converting them to the portable document format, that is PDF, that eventually appeared on the public portal, was sufficiently explained when IEBC demonstrated how KIMS captured and transmitted the image of Form 34A. Accordingly, we dismiss that allegation. 3, during the ICT scrutiny, it turned out that the transmission logs produced in the affidavit of Justice Nyangaya were of no probative value. The registrar's report shows that the original Forms 34A from the contestant polling stations, which were allegedly intercepted, were exactly the same as those on the public portal, and the certified copies that were presented to this court pursuant to the provisions of Section 12 of this Supreme Court Act 2011. 4, regarding the allegation that the integrity of the public portal was compromised, this was disproved by evidence of consistent attributes such as unique timestamps, uniform PDF conversions at the polling stations, correct polling station mapping, and consistent KIMS reporting from verification to transmission of results. 6, the RTS was configured on a virtual platform network, VPN, and the SIM cards locked to a specific polling station. The server was also configured to accept results only from authorized and properly mapped KIMS kits. In our view, the petitioners failed to produce credible evidence to the contrary. 7. A review of some of the logs presented as evidence of staging showed that they were either from logs arising from the 2017 presidential election or were outright forgeries. In our considered view, there was no evidence of a man in the middle server configured to the IEBC's VPN network, and no evidence was produced to show that the chairperson of IEBC and staff were part of the arranged conspiracy to stage the transmission process. 9. Whether there was a difference between Forms 34A uploaded on the IEBC public portal and the Forms 34A received at the National Tallying Center and Forms 34A issued to the agents at the polling stations. On this issue, the first petitioner's case was that there was deliberate manipulation and tampering with Forms 34A, as demonstrated in the affidavits, to the effect that votes were being deducted from the first petitioner and being added to the first respondent. To support this petition, evidence was contained in the affidavits of Honorable Martha Karua, sworn on 21st August 2022, Celestine Anyango Opio, Arnold Ochieng Oginga, and John Mark Githongo, which was sworn also on 21st August 2022, and a further affidavit sworn on 28th August 2022. Dr. Nyangasi also swore an affidavit on 21st August 2022, and so was Martin Papa, to support that allegation of handing and subtraction of votes. On the other hand, IEBC and its chairperson urged that all Forms 34A transmitted to IEBC portal were not interfered with or manipulated. Further, that the Forms 34A signed at the polling station and issued to the agents were identical to the Forms 34A uploaded on the public portal and delivered to the National Tallying Center at the Bomas. It was contended that in any event, IEBC used the original physical Forms 34A to tally, verify, and declare the presidential election results. This court ordered scrutiny of the forms from the 41 polling stations outlined in the affidavit of Celestine Opio to ascertain the allegation of interference. And this is our finding. 1, there were no significant differences captured between the Forms 34A uploaded on the public portal and the physical Forms 34A delivered to Bomas that would have affected the overall outcome of the presidential election. B, no credible evidence was presented to support the allegation that Forms 34A presented to agents differed from those uploaded to the public portal. The report by the registrar of this court confirmed the authenticity of the original forms in the sampled polling stations. The affidavits of Celestine Opio and Arnold Ochieng Oginga, while containing sensational information, were not credible, as the registrar's report confirmed that all the Forms 34A attached to those affidavits and purportedly given to them by the agents at select polling stations were significantly different from the originals, certified copies, and those on the public portal. The purported evidence of Celestine Opio and Arnold Oginga, sworn in their respective affidavits, are not only inadmissible, but are also unacceptable. It has been established that none of the agents on whose behalf the forms were being presented swore any affidavit, that there is nothing to show that they had instructed both Celestine and Arnold to act for them. Yet the two have gone ahead to depone on matters that are not within their knowledge. This court cannot countenance this type of conduct on the part of counsel who are officers of the court. Though it is elementary learning, it bears repeating that affidavits filed in court must deal only with facts which an opponent can prove of his own knowledge, and as a general rule, counsel are not permitted to swear affidavits on behalf of their clients in contentious matters like the one before us, because they run the risk of unknowingly swearing to falsehood and may also be liable to cross-examination to prove the matters deponed. We must remind counsel who appear before this court, or indeed before any other court or tribunal, of the provisions of sections 113 and 114 of the Penal Code that swearing to falsehoods is a criminal offense, and two, that it is an offense to present misleading or fabricated evidence in any judicial proceeding. Section 114 of the Penal Code states, and I quote, "Any person who swears falsely or makes a false affirmation or declaration before any person authorized to administer an oath or a declaration upon a matter of public concern, and at such circumstances that the false swearing or declaration, if committed in a judicial proceeding, would have amounted to perjury, is guilty of a misdemeanor." One of the most serious losses an advocate may ever suffer is the loss of trust by judges for a long time. Such conduct amounts to interference with the proper administration of justice. The contents of the affidavit of John Mark Githongo, which may contain forgeries, are also dismissed for not meeting the evidential threshold. Those averments contain no more than incredible and hearsay evidence. No admissible evidence was presented to prove the allegation that Forms 34A were fraudulently altered by a group situated in Karen under the direction of persons named in the affidavit, and video clip attached to it. As a matter of fact, these two affidavits amount to double hearsay and incapable of being proved at each of the rears. We turn to Form 34A for Gacharaigo Primary School, which was sensationally presented by Madam Judy Soweto, advocate, to show that one Jose Camango accessed the RTS and interfered with the result contained therein. This also turned out to be no more than hot air, and we were taken on a wild goose chase that yielded nothing of probative value. The Kim's kit relating to Songonyo Primary School, which bore the same serial number with another, was admitted by iebc as an inadvertent manufacturer's error. We are also satisfied that the two kits and other identifying features that were markedly different, including the timestamps and polling code, and therefore nothing turns on this anomaly. Therefore, to the question whether there was a difference between and Kakamega and Mombasa counties parliamentary elections in Kitui, Rural, Kachiriba, Rongai and Pokot South constituencies, and electoral wards in Nyaki West in North Imenti constituency, and Kwanjenga in Embakasi South constituency, resulted in voter suppression to the detriment of the petitioners, and especially in petition number 5 of 2022. It is common knowledge that IEBC postponed elections for various seats during the general elections of the first and second petitioners, that in terms of Articles 136, 2A, 177, 1, and 181, as read with Article 1 of the Constitution, the chairperson of IEBC had no jurisdiction to postpone to be first petitioner strongholds, and as such, the postponement of elections worked to his disadvantage and handed that benefit to the second respondent. These assertions were denied by IEBC and its chairperson. They, however, admitted that they experienced confusion with the printed ballot papers and explained that they only discovered the mix-up on the eve of the election when the ballot papers were being distributed to the polling stations. That as a practice, ballot papers can only be opened on the eve of the election day to avoid any mischief, and that by the time the mix-up was discovered, it was logistically impossible to print and replace the ballot papers in time for the elections. For this claim to succeed, it must be demonstrated first, IEBC had no authority in law to postpone the elections, and secondly, that the postponement was deliberate and calculated to suppress voter turnout so as to affect the result by reducing the petitioners' overall votes. We've looked at the provisions of Section 55B of the Elections Act, which provides for circumstances when elections can be postponed in a particular electoral unit, including in cases of emergency. We are therefore satisfied that on the basis of the foregoing provision, the third respondent and the requisite power to postpone election in the constituencies, counties, and wards in question. Concerning the allegation of voter suppression, we note that voter suppression is generally recognized as a political strategy which takes many forms, but whose practical effect is ultimately to reduce voting by deliberately discouraging or preventing targeted groups of people from exercising their right to vote, and thereby to influence the outcome of an election. It therefore goes against the letter and the spirit of Article 38, which guarantees every citizen the right to make political choices based on universal suffrage. As regards this allegation, it has not been shown that by postponing elections in the named electoral units, IEBC acted in bad faith or was influenced by irrelevant factors and considerations. From the explanation tendered, we are satisfied that the postponement was occasioned by a genuine mistake, which in our view could have been avoided had the members and staff of IEBC been more diligent when they went to inspect the templates in Athens, Greece, where the printing of ballot papers was undertaken. In the absence of any empirical data, we cannot find a basis upon which to conclude, as a matter of fact or evidence, that the postponement affected voter turnout, as a consequence of which the first petitioner alone, as a presidential candidate, suffered disadvantage. At any rate, the nature of the ballot being an individual decision and secret, there may be other factors to which the turnout in the named units can be attributed. From the evidence on record, however, it appears to us that 2022 general election recorded one of the lowest turnouts since the introduction of multi-party political system some 30 years ago. If there was a low voter turnout, it affected all the 6 categories of candidates